Hello, good morning, and welcome aboard to AM News. My name is Denisia Pomaiji. In our very first story, health professionals have raised fresh concerns over the pressures facing mothers of newborns. Despite child under 5 deaths falling from 67,000 in 2000 to below 33,000 in 2023, and neonatal deaths dropping from 25,000 to below 18,900, experts warn that many babies remain at risk because mothers must return to work before establishing adequate breastfeeding. Director of the Institute of Health Research at UHAS, Professor Alexander Menu, explained that breastfeeding is already a delicate process for mothers of preterm babies who require more frequent feeding and closer care.
Supports everybody to be able to get that. The other thing that I want us to think about, which is a human rights issue, and I'll talk about what breastfeeding is maternity leave in Ghana. We are giving 3 months of maternity leave, but we are expecting mothers to breastfeed for 6 months. And the next one is that if you go to many of our workplaces, even in hospitals, there is no space created for safe breastfeeding. So you can imagine us in a university, and then suddenly you've come to the university and you take out your breast and you start breastfeeding in the class or where? There are no spaces that are created in many places to allow mothers to be able to breastfeed. So all these things are things that we should think about.
Apologies, we'll rework that story and bring it to you in our subsequent bulletins. But let's now hear from Chairman of Parliament's Health Committee, Dr. Market Nawani, who has called for a nationwide expansion of neonatal intensive care units, extending their availability to district hospitals to improve care for vulnerable newborns.
And we have started advocating that as part of government policy, first and foremost, they should spread the neonatal intensive care unit across the country, even to district hospitals. And if they need be, then of course they can refer them to the regional or the teaching hospitals. We are saying this because some of them come from even far away and have to come and stay at a hospital that is not near to where they hail from. And that alone by itself is also a cost to them.
Away from neonatal health, the National Development Planning Commission is drawing attention to what it describes as persistent gaps in collaboration between the education and health ministries, noting that this lack of coordination continues to hold Ghana's human capital development backwards. Now, according to the Commission, the two ministries must play central roles in shaping and learning outcomes. The health standards and, of course, overall productivity and also inefficient teamwork across their agencies is undermining progress in these areas. There's more in the following report.
The National Development Planning Commission is blaming weak coordination between the education and health ministries for Ghana's poor human capital outcomes. The World Bank's Human Capital Index places Ghana 130th out of 170 countries with a score of 45%, which means a child born today is expected to realize only about 45% of their full potential. Addressing an interministerial coordinating committee meeting, Acting Director General Audrey Smock-Amwa stressed that human capital development is a shared mandate.
The human capital development strategy can therefore not be the responsibility of any single institution. It requires the collective efforts in the form of multi-sectoral collaboration. Curricula, teaching methods, certification and remuneration, among others. The health system as well cannot be left out.
Speaking to the media, resource person at the Design and Technology Institute, DTI, Koko Amatefio, warned that the nation is already paying the price for low human capital development.
If you look at Ghana, we have so much everywhere in terms of natural resources and stuff, but we are not training our young people to harvest these things, And it will make sense because what then happens is that we have other people harvesting our gold. We have other people doing products from our cocoa. We have other people doing products from our timber, but not us. So we are forever in poverty when we have all these outside people, telling us what to do and taking out the money that we should be actually earning.
Co-principal investigator and country research manager for Thrive, Dr. Kwabna Ando, emphasized the need to clearly define Ghana's primary national priorities before identifying the human capital required to achieve them.
Once we understand what we need as a country, then we understand what every sector must provide to support what we need as a country.
The NDPC warns that Ghana's human capital challenge will not improve unless the systems managing education and health begin to work in sync. Until that happens, the country risks locking generations into limited potential. For JoyNews, Maxwell Aklobotu's report, read to you.
Now let's move on to some other stories. The Executive Director of the Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy, Professor Isaac Boadi, has scored Finance Minister Ato Forson 40.5% after assessing the government's performance following his presentation of the 2026 budget. Now, speaking at a press conference in Accra, Professor Boadi says he had expressed concern over the government's ambitious jump in revenue projections for 2026. There's more captured in the following report.
Professor Isaac Boadi explained that the government achieved only about 70% of its target in 2025, yet has projected a 16% increase for 2026. He highlighted persistent gaps in non-oil tax revenues and said performance below 75% indicates significant under-collection, raising questions about how the additional billions will be sourced.
Total revenue and grants. 2025, the government achieved 70% in terms of revenue mobilization. But this year, the government tells us 265 billion or so. That's about 16% jump. And it's quite worrying because if you see such a figure, performance below 75% indicates significant under collection.
Senior research fellow at the think tank, Dr. George Domfe, said Ghana's economy is indeed improving, but stressed that the recovery is driven by the IMF-backed post-COVID program initiated in 2022.
Indeed, after the 2022 economic turmoil, the then Minister of Finance, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, initiated what became known as PCPEG, post-COVID program for economic growth. And that is what was adopted by IMF. And currently, that is the main fiscal agenda.
Another senior research fellow at the Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy, Dr. Frank Bano, explained that the government's lower than expected expenditure was driven by weak revenue, not deliberate fiscal discipline.
If revenue is not performing, and I've already established that fact for you, if your revenue is not performing because your expenditure would be a function of your revenue. So in a case whereby your revenue is not performing as you expected, the only economic and prudent thing to do is to cut your what? Your expenditure. So it is not really about the fact that the minister and the government loves Ghana so much. That is why they are reducing their expenditure. But it is because their revenue is not performing from their own budget.
The think tank concluded that the overall 40.5% score shows the administration delivered less than half of its planned interventions, with notable gains in tax reforms and arrears cleanup, but major gaps in mining oversight, infrastructure, and environmental policy.
And still on the economy, Cape Coast is set to undergo a major economic transformation as the Metropolitan Assembly unveils plans to construct an ultra-modern 24-hour economy model market, an initiative projected to boost employment and also stimulate vibrant local trade. Speaking at a town hall meeting with stakeholders, the Metropolitan Chief Executive George Justice Arthur announced that 25% of the Assembly's common fund will be dedicated to the project. He explained that the investment aligns with government's renewed push to accelerate local development and create sustainable economic opportunities across the country.
In line with government's directive regarding the allocation of the District Assembly's Common Fund, the Cape Coast Metropolitan Assembly announced plans to build an ultra-modern 24-hour economy model market, At a town hall meeting held to engage stakeholders on the project, the Metropolitan Chief Executive of Cape Coast, George Justice Arthur, outlined the features of the market, explaining that the initiative is designed to expand economic activity and create employment opportunities in Cape Coast.
People from the various institutions, departments and agencies, they were all here for us to understand what we mean by 24-hour economy model market. We are building or constructing model 1, that is Cape Coast for the metropolitan areas. And so they have actually understood and have actually appreciated what the President of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and the government is doing. This is going to reduce unemployment, is going to employ a lot of people, is going to create economic viability for the metropolis. And I believe that it's going to bring people from all walks of life to come to the metropolis and enjoy the market. It has a lot of facilities.
The MC also noted that 25% of the Assembly's Common Fund allocation will be dedicated to the project, emphasizing government's push to ensure local development.
This project, whole project, will be funded through District Assembly Common Fund. And 25% of District Assembly Common Fund is going to be used to construct this whole project. And so the funding sources is from the District Assembly Common Fund. 25% that is allocated to the District Assembly Common Fund to fund this project.
Cape Coast businessman Frank Hatchford praised the initiative, highlighting some of its benefits.
Bringing market here, I mean, it's excellent. You can see Cape Coast, most of the people, they trade on the roadside. It will ease congestion too. And I think it will bring revenue to the assembly. At the same time, the people around will be getting jobs. People thought it's only factories that is creating employment. Trade can create a lot of employment. I'm telling you, if you go to Sunyani, those poultry farmers, they are getting their market from Côte d'Ivoire. So I think the next step is going to be Abra, the new stadium front. That is going to be a huge market.
From Cape Coast, Abigail Lesal-Nkoma reports for JoyNews.
Well, in recent years, Ghana's festive season has been marred by rising road accidents, fire outbreaks and crowd-related incidents, placing heavy demands on emergency and security services. To avoid a repeat this year, all police personnel and NADMO officials will not be allowed to go on leave during the Christmas period. Now, this measure keeps all police and NADMO personnel on duty to respond swiftly to emergencies and maintain public safety throughout the Christmas period. My colleague Rodlin Abensa has more in the following report.
As the Yuletide season approaches, Ghana braces for rising road accidents, fires and crowd-related emergencies that have strained safety services in past Christmas periods. To ensure rapid nationwide response, the Ghana Police Service and NADMO have suspended all leave for their personnel, officials say. Here are Jamestown District Commander Superintendent William Otre Abisa and NADMO's Director of Disaster Risk Management, William Amenuvo.
Our operational order for the Christmas festivities. Day and night patrols as usual. Every year, that's what we do. I'm even here to inform you that the IGP has even banned leave for all police officers. Our police, we are preparing seriously for the Christmas.
NADMO, we are not going on leave, going to ensure that safety of the people is apprehended.
They made this known at the launch of Operation Disaster Free Christmas in Accra, an initiative aimed at strengthening emergency response and ensuring a safety festive season for all. Meanwhile, speaking at the launch, Accra Mayor Michael Kpakpo Alote raised concerns about drivers charging inconsistent fares for the same routes. He cautioned that any driver who flouts the agreed fares after the meeting will face strict sanctions.
Some of our drivers charge different fees in the morning. In the evening, they charge another fees. And it's a big worry. But I can assure you, after this meeting, And any driver that will not listen to what you say here, and you go out there and charge more than what is supposed to take, I'll make sure that we have a court there, the sanitation court. We will take you there and make sure we remind you.
The move by the Ghana Police Service and NADMO, alongside the AMA's proactive measures, aims to ensure a safe and incident-free festive season for residents and visitors alike. Rudalen Abense's report read to you.
It's now time for some business news. Ahanta Pele, Samuel Kujibris will bring you that after this short break.
Let's do some business updates now, and starting with what's happening on the currency market. So our first story now, in government is being urged to exercise restraint in financing the Big Push project through additional borrowing, warning that the approach could worsen Ghana's rising debt stock. Speaking on the sidelines of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry's National Post-Budget Review Seminar in Accra, partner at accounting firm Deloitte Ghana, Yao Apia Latte, noted that relying heavily on loans for such a major initiative could worsen our debt situation.
2026, you can see from the budget that government intends to spend. So capital expenditure is expected to end at the year 2025 at 36% less than what was budgeted. In 2026, government intends to spend about almost 60 billion on capital expenditure. About half of that, 50% of that, is going toward the Big Push. And then there are also other allocations to other projects such as the Nkonketinketi and then others. I think for me, what I see government intending to do is to spend more on infrastructure to drive growth. But what we would like to caution is that this big spend in infrastructure should not be on the back of borrowing, which has been our biggest problem. Our debt to GDP ratio has reduced significantly from 65% to now 45%, which is less than the 55% threshold. And so if you're going to do things like the Big Push, it should not be at the back of expensive borrowing, which we've seen in the past, where government has borrowed from commercial markets, which are relatively more expensive.
Now, Director of Budget at the Ministry of Finance, Isaac Kreku, says Ghana is on course to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by the target year. Speaking at a stakeholder engagement, Mr. Kreku expressed confidence that the country's ongoing programs are yielding the desired results. Here's more.
The report provides an explicit and measurable account of how the SDG targets are reflected in Ghana's budget, allocations and expenditures. This has been made possible by aligning the National Medium-Term Development Policy objectives with a chart of accounts to the SDGs. Now, tracking the SDGs forms part of the integral part of government's commitment to inclusive and sustainable national development. It allows us not only to demonstrate progress, but also to identify the gaps and challenges that may hinder achievement of the goals, so that corrective measures can be taken in a timely manner. The report outlines developments at the global level, highlights policy interventions put in place by government, and presents specific progress made by ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. Developing the report is more than just tagging and tracking of budgetary allocations and associated expenditures. It tells the story of Ghana's development journey.
Let's wrap up the business update with what's happening on the commodities market. And that's it for the business update. Back to you, Denisha Poma AJ.
Thank you, Ahanta Peli Samuel Kujibreeze. That's it for AM News. But if you want more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Denisia Poma AJ. Up next is sports. We have an interesting discussion, I beg your pardon, with Rex Dankwa. He's an international sports consultant. Enjoy the interview and, of course, the rest of the show.